So if I can just do a formal welcome to the worship.
Hold it there.
This will be remembered.
Yeah. Yeah. Well done. That's ideal.
So,
No, just check it could be.
I'm going to welcome the worshipful, the Mayor of the Borough of Harrogate, Victoria Oldham, Councillor Victoria Oldham, welcome her here, and without further ado, ask her to do what the wind can do very well and unveil this amazing plaque, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Victoria.
My pleasure, thank you.
So we've got three things. In a moment, Janet is going to talk to us about this house and what it stands for, a little bit of its history. Then I'd just like to say a few words about the Civic Society and the plaque scheme in general. And then we're inviting the Mayor to speak to us on behalf of the town. So three little things. Janet, would you like to tell us a little bit about 9A Royal Parade?
I thought you were going first, but anyway, yes, I'm totally unprepared.
Oh.
That's absolutely fine. Okay, just, I hope everybody can hear me. So, first of all, welcome, and thank you very much for coming. It's, David and I bought 9 Royal Parade in 1975. And you can all work out I was a child bride. So we go back a long, long way. Royal Parade, you won't know this, was called Royal Parade because, of course, it was where the royals paraded when they came to take the waters at the Royal Pump Room. So it already has that huge, special feeling about it. Right. I want you to just have a little look round now and remember that when we bought it, it didn't look like this. So one of my first jobs was painting the ceiling. And then we had the cornice. The cornice was falling down and we had it repaired by the plasterer from Harewood House. And it's remained lovely, but I just want you to think and know it speaks for itself. It's all original, the fireplace, the alcoves. I haven't done anything. Okay. So, I want you to know how I came to research the history of 9 Royal Parade. And of course it was 2019. We let the apartments out. And guess what? No income, no clients, nothing to do. And so, I suppose, I wasn't going to tell you this, but in my current career, I'm what they call a systemic constellation therapist, a family constellation therapist, and I research people's family history and the repeating events. And so I felt compelled to find the history of the house, of which I could only ever appreciate it but not know anything about it. I didn't know where to start, so I started with my darling friend, Rodney Dalton, who I've known since I was 17, obviously 5 years after I was married. And Rodney's been our family solicitor. And so I wrote to him and said, could he find something out about the deeds? And of course, the deeds were all locked up because it was bloody locked down. So it took ages and ages and ages. But that wasn't Rodney's fault. And eventually, Rodney rang me and said, I've got the deeds. And that was when the first time I even heard Pickersgill Palliser's name. And what I want to share with you is this wonderful, 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 wonderful. These are the legal deeds from 1855.
I didn't write those.
True copy plate.
Yes. I mean, it's just an absolute, it's a piece of history itself. And not only, and I'll talk to you a little bit about this, not only in it, you can see there of Mr. Pickersgill Palliser and his mortgagee. So that set us off, and then we also have the handwritten details, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that, about the other people who've lived here, because it's a very interesting history. Okay, so there I have the deeds, and then I had to find out who Pickersgill Palliser was, of which I knew nothing. And Pickersgill Palliser was born in Yarm in 1805, just a few miles from where I lived in Middlesbrough, and very near where my maternal uncle has lived all his life. So there was that, you come from Yarm, yay! So the story is that he came to Harrogate as a young man, aged about 18, with 2 and 6pence in his pocket, determined to make his fortune in Harrogate. Yeah? In 1836, I feel a bit embarrassed because this is your story.
No,
in
I actually know nothing about him, that's why I'm here this evening.
In 1836 he founded the Harrogate Advertiser, which was literally just a list of the royal visitors to the royal pump room. In 1840, aged 35, he published Palliser's History and Directory of Harrogate. In 1855, and this is where we have the deeds, he bought the land for 8 and 9 Royal Parade and had the buildings erected. And I do not know who built them. That's really interesting, because there is some conjecture that this land was bought from the Earl of Harwood, because the interior architecture is so outstanding. In the 1871 census, he's recorded as living in Royal Parade, and he was the postmaster downstairs. And as you said quite rightly, his obituary in 1883 recorded him as having a life of dedicated service to Harrogate. So lovely, lovely story. With this newfound information and not knowing anything about the Harrogate Civic Society, I contacted you, and what was amazing was you sent Malcolm Neeson, your absolutely wonderful Harrogate historian, and he just walked in the building and he just walked in the hall and he said, "Oh yes, Janet." It was wonderful. What a lovely, lovely, lovely man. And I'm sorry he's not here with us tonight. And because of Malcolm Neeson, Harrogate historian, he wrote the plaque, he told me what to do, he shared with me everything, and that's why it's up. Because what I know about plaques, you could write on a postage stamp, right? So, that's the straightforward bit. You ready now? So this is my alternative life. You ready? My daughter calls it weirdshit.com. After my studies as an interior designer, I studied for 3 years with William Spear, Feng Shui. And this led me, and I don't know whether anybody's aware of these books by Christopher Alexander, who's an American-Austrian architect, and he talks specifically about how every building is given its character by certain patterns of events that keep on repeating themselves. And he's maybe written 10 books, and he's mandatory reading for every architect. So the buildings have special qualities. Does that make sense? And this is also confirmed by the English biologist, the very famous Rupert Sheldrake, and his theories that memories are held in morphic fields of resonance, not in the mind. So buildings have patterns of thought, activity, and speech that resonate and repeat. So I've done it now. I've told you the weirdshit.com. Because what's really interesting is when we look at the owners of 9 Royal Parade through the handwritten deeds. First of all, there have only been 4 owners in 167 years. That's amazing. There was Pickersgill Palliser, then there was Henry Horner, the bookseller, and his daughter, so that was another family. Then David bought the building from Walter Waddingham, who was an antique dealer.
After his death.
After his death, oh well, yeah, after his death, sorry. Yes, but he was an antique dealer, and guess what? A historian through and through and through. And he used this building to store his antique furniture. And then along comes David Love. This is David Love, my ex-husband, who studied history at Trinity College in Dublin, and then has been an antique dealer every day of his life. A committed historian. We're looking at the patterns of how history is so important to the people who live here. And when I was an interior designer, I specialised in period interior design. Okay, so the most important thing to remember, and I'm going to close now, is that Harrogate was renowned for coming to take the waters. This is what for health and happiness. So I want you to know that in all the years David and I have owned this property, we've only ever drunk water. So perhaps you'll all give us all a toast to 9 Royal Parade, the plaque, the Civic Society, and all of you, and thank you for coming. Taking the waters.
Janet, thank you very much.
I hope that helped.
Absolutely. So much history in this town, and it's just great that the Civic Society can work with people like Janet and many others and bring that history alive. And some of you, of course, will have heard this many times, but there are now, as of today, 92 plaques in the town. And we work hard as the Civic Society in promoting those, and we have published, if you haven't seen it, town centre trails that take you around the plaques using different coloured routes. This is hopelessly out of date, but I've got a copy for each of you on the table, because in the next 48 hours we're going to go to print on a new edition that will be bang up to date and will include, of course, 9 Royal Parade. But we do really promote the plaques, and our website called heritageplaques.org, and there's a reminder for you to take to look on that website and read about each plaque. All the inscriptions on the plaques are reproduced on our website, and we have a timeline where all the data is input, and you can research to your heart's content the history of Harrogate by place, by person, by building, by date, whatever. And the creator of that website is with us tonight. He's just taking pictures in the back, Chris Dickin, and that's a really important part of our work. Other than that, the Civic Society stands really for 3 things. We celebrate our past, and we're doing that today. We try to enhance the present, and we shape the future. We're enhancing the present because at the moment we're in debate with our local authority over some high-tech rubbish bins just round the corner, not 50 metres away. And we're trying to enhance the present by having those moved. But we're trying to shape the future as well by working with different departments of the authority and with architects and designers. So that's just a little bit about the society. Now, I know in a few moments Janet would love you to look around the apartments, go upstairs, look around and help yourself to nibbles. But before that, I'd like to ask the Mayor to talk to us for a moment or two.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm not going to mention anything too historical because there are too many people here who have much greater knowledge than I certainly do. Now, I came into office as Mayor, a non-political office I hasten to add, on the 23rd of May. And since then I've been rather busy, as you can imagine, with the Jubilee and that. But it's an absolute privilege to be here tonight because I've heard such good things about the Civic Society.
Oh, good.
And I certainly hope in my remaining months as Mayor to work with you on more regular occasions and possibly come along to your meetings.
Excellent.
I think you do a marvellous job. I was brought up by my grandmother, so I'm rather used to older houses than some of the modern, what can I call them? The modern buildings that are put up now. And there's so much you can learn from the past. And the fact that those buildings and the history around them has lasted can teach so many people of today what really mattered and the standards that mattered as well. Now, obviously, the gentleman who built and lived here was a remarkable chap. And for the years that he was here in Harrogate, he added so much and enhanced so many people's lives. And that makes him one, in my eyes, a very remarkable person. And I do wonder if, as I said below, if there are too many of those people around today. But we need to use our eyes as we go around areas to recognise what is there. If there isn't a plaque, maybe start doing your own research, but then having the Historical Society go to them for their knowledge as well to enhance, because chances are if it's not done, it'll be lost, or it could be lost. Now, those waste bins at our rather nice gates around the corner, I couldn't possibly comment. However, I have it on good authority that they are likely to be moved or removed, but not my domain and beyond my pay grade. But seeing so many people here tonight showing such an interest is marvellous. And I care about Harrogate. I care about the people in Harrogate. And long may all of you appreciate what Harrogate has to offer as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing about Pickersgill Palliser, because this is really important. What I did, because with my job in London, I work with a genealogist, and I actually thought I cannot have a plaque put up to Pickersgill Palliser if I don't know about his descendants. This is really important in my line of work. And when we traced his history, he had 4 children, 3 of whom died in early childhood, and only 1 daughter survived him, and she had no children. So in my, and I mean this really honestly, it's really important that he's remembered today.
Here.
You know, it's like, you know, but I wouldn't have had the plaque put up and his granddaughter's living up the road. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.